Bienvenidos de nuevo una vez más a Lili Sin Barreras. It is always my pleasure to enter your home, your house, wherever you want to see us. Today I think it's very, very exciting for me to have two women who are running for political office, running to make a difference in our communities, and have such a different perspective. You're going to find out how refreshing this is. And joining us here in the studio, they decided to do it together. No, that's not true. I forced them to do it together. So let's own up to it. Thank you so much, Claire Kendall, for being with us.
I am delighted to be here. I really am just wonderful to be here.
I'm excited.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, I'm excited. Eva Bermudez.
Thank you, Lili. Hello, audience, everyone watching. Thank you for having me on the show. Very excited.
I think it's important for us to point out that this conversation is really about why are you both running? What are you running for? And almost against. We have a political climate, and I'll speak for myself. Donald Trump is not my president. Let's be clear about that. He's offended everybody and everything under the sun. He is trumped our rights as women, as people with disabilities, because I'm one of those, as a mother, forget it. There's not one group that he's not touched. The veterans, my husband is a veteran. I mean, he has done incredible stuff. Women have voted left and right for Donald Trump. Terrifies me that we will live another 4 years if this is how we feel. We've seen schools, children walking out of schools and saying enough is enough. Okay, we've seen women saying enough is enough. We can't tolerate this. So we've seen the power of our youth. We've seen the power of women. We see the power now. So let's talk about what does that mean for us as women in the state of Connecticut, across the world. Okay, so let's point out the obvious that most people don't like to talk about. You are a white American woman. We can see that. You are an attorney.
Correct.
Okay, you are from Waterbury.
I am.
Okay, so you know who we are, where we live.
I know who I am as well.
That's a good one. Okay, and you have been working at the state attorney's office as a?
I have been an assistant attorney general for 20 years and an attorney for 28 years.
Yikes.
So, and there's a difference between the Attorney General's office and the state's attorneys.
Yes, I'm sorry, I take that
State's
back.
attorneys is criminal and Attorney General is all civil. We are the lawyers for the state of Connecticut, the people, the businesses, and the laws of the state of Connecticut.
And we're going to talk about that because that gets very tricky for some of us.
Correct.
Okay, are you protecting the agencies? How do you protect us? If the agencies violate our rights, how do you protect theirs? So that's a tricky dance that you all have.
That is a tricky dance,
okay,
actually.
So we're going to talk about that. Eva Bermudez, you are taking on a big task.
I am. I'm ready for it, though.
You are. Okay, we love you. We know you in the community. You've done amazing work for us Puerto Ricans who've just been displaced by Huracán Maria. So we know. Why are you running?
I'm running to make sure that people have a voice. I'm running because as an organizer for 13 years of my life, I've learned that the most important thing is to advocate. The most important thing is to be there and be supportive. And sometimes leading from behind is not enough, and you have to lead from in front. And I'm taking this chance and this opportunity to lead from in front.
Tell us what you're running for.
I'm exploring statewide office. I'm focusing right now with Secretary of the State and talking to every single community DTC event and activity to let them know that there are people out there who believe and trust in our community, and I want to join those forces to make sure that I'm part of that conversation.
Claire, let's talk a little bit about how I met you. We have someone we know in common, actually a couple of people, people I adore. Fernando Zapatas. We also have Cindy Dubuque that we know, and they were like, oh my God, Lili, you got to talk to this woman. Change is coming. We need you to talk to her. So obviously people at all levels know you, but there's a feeling of Claire can make a difference for us. That's a huge responsibility.
And an exciting opportunity. I am a candidate for Attorney General. So unlike Eva, I am not exploring. I am a candidate, and I envy your enthusiasm for higher office, whereas I am laser focused. I want to be Attorney General. I want to be your Attorney General because that's what I have been doing for the past 28 years, is be an attorney. And if you say, what is your personality? What moves you? For me, it's justice.
And we're going to talk about what justice looks like for us right now. And what I mean by this is we've seen a lot of lack of.
Correct.
During this administration. We've seen it all through the world. Okay, generations through generations. I mean, your family has been active all along, Eva. They're activists. You know, you have many, many connections. You also have some of that as well, Claire, because you grew up in Waterbury, went to law school, and you didn't have maybe the resources that others do. So
Correct.
You've had to work yourself up the ladder.
Right.
It is a little bit different for a white woman than it is for a Latina woman.
Yes.
So I think we should not shy away from that. But let's talk about the changes that you think you can magically do if you were the one who ended up with the office.
There's no magic to it. It's just hard work and desire. I am running because I want to protect the vulnerable, and I want to protect people who work for a living, whether you want to call that working class, middle class. This administration particularly has been very bad about creating even a greater divide between those who work for a living and those who make their money by investing money. And that divide has been growing wider for a long time. However, this administration is elevating those who invest money and has been really undermining the people who work for a living. As Attorney General, you can do a lot in the office to protect those who work for a living and those who are the most vulnerable. And that's where justice comes in. And when you have a system that is not so much the individual wrong, though the office does a lot that way of helping, for example, consumers who have been ripped off. But it's the systemic wrongs that really get my juices going, for lack of a better word, where you can take on a bank that says, we will cheat you, and then we will require you to go through arbitration, and we won't let you do a class action. And since you're only losing $200, you can't fight us and make it get better. As an Attorney General, I can sue that same institution and say, you will change your ways and you will refund those people what they've lost. And that's what the power of the office is, and that's what I mean by justice.
Before we ask you a couple of questions also, Eva, let's talk about mental health. There is a lot of people in our state who are discriminated left and right in health insurance. One decides that they will cover it, won't cover it. We take a policy saying it will cover it. 6 months later, no, it won't cover that uniqueness. And I think that's what people called Obamacare. And the reason why I bring that up is because the Affordable Care Act allowed people with disabilities, pre-existing conditions, to be part of this insurance.
Correct.
And regardless of how people feel, there was a niche for us, okay? That's not available through private insurance for many of us when we decide to change or when we have no choice but to change due to our employers, due to losing employment. Where do you see your office impacting change when it comes down to the insurance world that affects so many people with mental health?
Well, the insurance world affects everybody with any sort of health issue. Who doesn't have a pre-existing condition?
Oh, and that's the reason why the Affordable Care Act was able to get our attention.
And I don't understand the policy analysis that says we should go back to the bad old days when people who had pre-existing conditions either didn't get medical care or lost their homes or declared bankruptcy because they couldn't get and couldn't afford the care they needed and
And
couldn't
we see
do
that
the wellness
in the elderly
care.
community right now. We're
Right.
asking them to basically get rid of everything sometimes so they can get the care that they
Correct.
need.
Correct. And so whether it's mental health or diabetes or high blood pressure or cholesterol, any of those should be covered. As the AG's office, there's things you can do for advocacy. What my opponents for the position, who are also seeking Attorney General, would call the soft powers of the office. I don't know how soft it is. We advocate every day. That's what we do for a living.
Yeah, the word soft as an advocate always
So
doesn't.
we are advocates. That's
Yeah.
the word. The word attorney. Is often translated into advocate.
Yeah.
So we are advocates every day, and so you certainly advocate to change both federal law and state law. You can also, however, again systemically, particularly, challenge different practices that how insurance policies are uniformly interpreted. There's a unit within the Attorney General's office, which is fantastic, that helps people who are having insurance coverage issues get those addressed. And they help advocate for those who are saying, listen, I need this operation, I have this the doctor says I need this operation. Insurance company saying, maybe you do, maybe you don't, can you help me cut through the red tape? And they are actually excellent in helping you cut through the red tape.
Actually, when Blumenthal was in office, I had the privilege to meet Jennifer Jaff, and ended up working for Jennifer Jaff as well. And she started an entire agency that was, patients with chronic illnesses. And the reason why I bring up mental health was because it was very difficult to get insurances to pay attention to mental health, because it's a lot easier for you to shoo me away if I have a cognitive impairment.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot easier for you to shoo me away. So I'm excited about that, and that's
Tom
why
Ryan in our office does that now.
wonderful.
Jennifer Jaff, may she rest in peace, was
my
wonderful.
girl.
But she was fabulous. But Tom Ryan does the same thing. And an Attorney General steps up to the times they are in. So George Jepsen has been Attorney General for most of the time with Obama as president and a Democratic administration.
Very
the
different.
next Attorney General is going to have the current federal administration, which is certainly not restful.
I like that, restful. I have colorful words for
exactly.
restful.
And who knows who the administration will be, whether it will be Democratic or Republican. But it really doesn't matter what the state administration is going to be. The next Attorney General is going to have to be an experienced fighter. And
you're qualified.
I am the only candidate for Attorney General who has any experience in the office. I have significantly more litigation experience than any of my colleagues who are running.
I'm getting the feeling that this is not going to be an easy win for anybody.
But I am not the establishment candidate. I mean, I am very much sort of out of, I have been working and defending and protecting people in Connecticut. Many of my colleagues who are running for the position have been legislators, and that's a great avenue to go by, but they, by every measure, have the inside track.
I don't know how I feel about that, but we're going to get
We'll
back
get there.
to that.
We'll get there.
We're gonna
I'll
get back
tell
to
you.
that, 'cause
They know
Yeah.
2,000 Democratic delegates who are going into that convention.
Yeah.
I do not.
Well, God has a funny way of protecting his people and making a way. And,
Let's hope so.
And a lot of ovaries together make a difference.
And to this point, I mean, I will say that, I cannot begin to thank the people who have gotten me to this far. It's been just nothing but pure gift as far as, how successful I have been in fundraising, in meeting delegates, in talking to people. I can't take any credit for it.
You have a great, when I met you, and Eva, you share some of these qualities as well. And you have a great balance between showing what you know and showing it assertively and allowing people to also get close to you. And that's a very unique balance. Okay, because for folks like me, I want to know that I can place a phone call.
Absolutely.
I want to know that when I vote, or when I work on a campaign, or when I talk to someone and say, hey, you should talk to this person, I can call that person.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times what we do is we have platforms and people come and use them, and then they disappear and they forget your last name. And mine is really long, so if you forget mine, you obviously don't have a good memory. But I want to talk to Eva. You're doing a very unique approach to how you're doing this exploratory campaign. Because of the background you have, you've worked on advocacy one-on-one, you have worked on the union issues, you have worked on, what else do we want to talk about?
Humanitarian
efforts. You have done
I worked for a legislator, yeah.
You've worked for a legislator, you know your stuff.
Yes.
What in your heart of hearts says, it is my turn, I have to do something?
My heart of hearts is a conversation, so before filing my exploratory, I'm right now the SEIU Child Care Director for the state of Connecticut, and because of the campaign, I let go of my position as SEIU Child Care Director for the state of Massachusetts. I have to make sure I give my members the time that they deserve, but also the campaign and the constituency that I would like to represent, also the time and the dedication to this exploratory. So what got me from the point of, I know what you're saying, and I know what I feel, to let me be part of the solution, was a conversation that I had with a child care provider, one of my members, and Isabel said to me all her frustrations of getting up at 5 in the morning, being in a contract fight where she's still not making enough money to pay for basic necessities in her own home for her own children, despite the fact that she gets up at 5 to take care of kids for other people. Mm-hmm. So those kind of conversations, and specifically Isabel, it breaks my heart. It fuels me to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for the membership, that I continue organizing, that I'm involved. But this particular election year, it hit me even harder because of the candidates that I saw and the fact that the majority of them don't look like Connecticut. So in this conversation with my member, who I've known for many, many years, I said, what do you expect to be changed? What do you want, and what do you need to be done this election year, because it's so contentious, because there's an opportunity to have fresh faces? And she said, real representation. So I came back home, I had that conversation with my husband, with my family, and I said, if I don't see the change with the candidates that are currently putting themselves out there, then I'm going to be part of that solution, that sacrifice. So that's why I'm here. I'm exploring, and I definitely think that Claire's position of being a candidate, a declared candidate, is very brave. But as someone who has never run for a statewide office and has always been behind the scenes, the first step for me was to see if the people believe in me. And I'm seeing time and time again in every conversation that I have in the community that people are behind me. And hopefully I'll circle back with my family and have that conversation with them about, is it time for me to switch over? Is it time for me to take that next step with this campaign and declare myself as a candidate? So that's what the exploration process is for.
And I think it's important for us who don't do this for a living, who are not in those races day in and day out, but desperately need you, to understand those differences. And I think you're both very brave to do it, especially in this climate. So let's talk a little bit about what it is to be a woman and take on this task right now. Because when men speak up, they're considered what? Assertive.
Strong.
Yes, strong. When we speak up, we are considered what?
Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Or
what is wrong with them? Why are they so aggressive? That's what I hear all the time. Why are you so aggressive? I'm like, you mean assertive. Okay? And if we're passionate, what are we? Emotional. Well, I think every law that's been written is because somebody had an emotion at one time, right? Of
Yes.
some injustice that was somewhere and somebody said, oh no, we can't have that anymore. So as women, you come from two different generations, which I find fascinating. What is the world for you guys right now? Where do you see the world right now? You are in the office, okay? You don't have the insight that others have, meaning some of your opponents are right now running, but they have worked in politics for a very long time, and you're a woman. So what does that mean for you? What are some of the common challenges that you see and you go, I gotta pay attention to this?
Yeah. I am currently on leave from my office. So I am on unpaid leave since December 8th because it takes a while, just the sheer logistics
It does.
of getting together your team. Even it's good to hear that same for you because you're used to organizing, but it just getting your team together, and how do you get things going and setting up all of the mechanics of running a campaign. I am the only woman seeking the Democratic nomination, and if elected, I would be the first woman elected as AG. We've had a woman elected to all the other statewide offices. We've never had a woman elected as Attorney General. We have had a woman serve. Clarine Nardi-Riddle served for a couple of years, filling out Joe Lieberman's period after he was elected to senator. I have found being a woman certainly let me be really clear. Like the colleagues I'm running against, we're all seeking the nomination, they have never said or done anything, gender-based. So I'm not getting sort of discrimination from my colleagues at all. I think that my introduction into the process has changed their dialogue. Most women would be, not surprised. I see some of my language sneaking into their speeches. But I will also say that I find what they are adding to the process very interesting, and it sharpens up my speech. So that I tend to, where I'm coming in from a sort of a emotional connection perhaps. They're adding emotional connections to their speeches, and I'm adding a little more of an edge to mine.
Oh,
So it's
I like
kind of a nice trade-off. I do think it makes a difference being a woman running. I think we are less likely to say, of course I can do that. I am by far the most experienced woman. That just is the fact. But
like facts.
it doesn't stop the guys from saying, of course I should be AG. Whereas I think I would have been, if I had some of their experience and didn't have the depth of mine, I might have been a little hesitant to step forward. And I think women are much more likely to run if invited. That I heard that the Attorney General was not going to run for re-election. A colleague called me 15 minutes later and said, are you going to run? And I think we respond more to the invitation and are not as likely to say, well, of course I can.
We would like to change that.
Yes.
We would like to
And I
change the
thi-
young
exactly.
women in our preteens and the mock trials and all of that kind of stuff, so girls can get that feeling at an early age. Eva, you have the, I want to say, benefit that your family has always some way has been involved in the grassroots and politics and taking the justice right to the people.
Since birth, Chef versus O'Neill, literally since I was born. I almost joke with my dad that the minute he got out of the hospital with me, he rushed over to the courthouse to add me as a plaintiff, and just to make sure.
I got to make sure my baby's taken care of.
Yes, as an activist. I do have the benefit of having a family that is very involved, but I never thought I was going to be involved politically or as an organizer, especially when you're doing the right thing, it comes natural. When you're doing the right thing and you're surrounding yourself with people who believe in making positive change, you don't think yourself or label yourself as an activist. You just think that you're doing good by your community. So at a very young age, when I was doing that good by my community, I wanted to be a doctor. I won the science fair twice. I got to states 3 times. I got to states. This was when I was a little kid, and I had an inclination and talent for the sciences. And somewhere around that line between middle school and high school, when you're finding yourself and you're looking for, what really speaks to me, I discovered organizing. I worked for Comperg. I moved to Brazil. I did humanities.
Can I interrupt you?
There was a lot. There was a lot
Your
there
dad
to
has
reach
the
to
cutest
now.
story because we've been working closely due to the families being displaced from our country, Puerto Rico. And he just, proud dad, he goes, oh my God, that one was born with, I'm going to do things differently. And I'm like, that makes sense. I like that. He's like, just walked in one day and said, I want to go study abroad. And he said, I thought, okay, she's going to forget that, of course. And she's like, okay, I need you to sign papers. I'm leaving. So he did share that story with me, and I thought that was great.
So because my parents are educators, my dad's a teacher, retired teacher in Hartford Public Schools. My mom is a paraprofessional, Hartford Public Schools, previously had her own bakery. And so when I was a kid, the way that they did things at home was almost like a book report, or it was almost like a homework assignment. That if we had the intentions of going to camp or doing an activity, we'd had to do a presentation with a bulletin board and sell them on the idea. We had to sell our parents on the idea that this extracurricular event, be it free or not, was worth our time and worth their signature. And working for humanitarian efforts in a program abroad with Rotary was one of those moments. He said, "Great! If I'm going to pay for your flight, if I'm going to assist you in this process to be vetted for a very very competitive program, then as a father, I want to know that you're taking this seriously." So I did my presentation. I made sure I kept my grades up, and at 16. After I graduated high school, I moved to Brazil.
Wow.
So
Daddy was with his mouth open is what he says.
Eva, you actually don't live in Hartford.
I live in Newtown, Sandy Hook.
And you have seen firsthand the pain of the people
Yes.
because of tragedies. But you also are the minority
Yes.
in your
Yes.
community.
Yes.
And minority for you is present all the time because, sister, you are caramel.
Well, depending on who you talk to in my community, I might be darker than caramel, but that is a reality.
Oh, I like caramel.
But I'll take caramel. I love my caramel. I am one with my caramel. I don't share this story often, and it's not because I'm embarrassed. I just don't like spreading negative light on a community that has so many, that is dynamic. Mm-hmm. So my first week moving to Newtown, it was the first time that someone called me the N-word. Ew. And I thought that as an adult, at that point, in my mid-20s, that word was never going to be used towards me because it hadn't been used in the past. But that wasn't enough to tell me or it wasn't enough to make me shy away from becoming active. Despite that there was one human being that for whatever reason was racist, it didn't mean that the community where I now live in, the community that I wanted to adopt, didn't want to adopt me. And I plowed ahead like I do in any community that I want to become part of. I get involved. And if we get involved, I know that a lot of my friends don't share the same viewpoints as me when it comes to people of color. I share the viewpoint that we are ambassadors of culture.
Of course.
Other friends say that, and I've had these debates, that if you're a person of color, you shouldn't have an obligation to educate anyone. People should educate themselves. So putting aside...
I'll tell you what my opinion is. It's always a great opportunity to learn where people are and a great opportunity to invite people to learn
Absolutely.
what it means to you.
Absolutely.
And I think that's not only with race, but with anything we do in life, because that we don't know is always going to seem odd.
Absolutely.
So I'll give you both an example. I still iron my husband's clothes. And people go, "Oh, I thought you were a feminist."
You
I
do it
am.
with love.
but I enjoy this piece of it versus it being a demand. So
Right.
I love the fact that you didn't take an entire community and say one person that this horrible expression of ignorance. But there's so many other good things here, and I'm going to be part of it. And it seems
Absolutely.
like they know that you are a jewel.
And they needed the support. Now, our DTC, our Democratic Town Committee in Newtown, when I started, the majority were white men above the age of 65. I am proud to say that at this point, our DTC has races, all different colors.
Yeah.
We have more than 10 minorities. And for those who don't know, a Democratic Town Committee in small towns are very small. Usually it could be 15 people. So to have 10 people of color, of diverse backgrounds, of diverse ages is impressive when your group is only 26 or 15 people. Before it was 15 people, now it's grown to over 40. So that reflects the enthusiasm that not only I have put in, but all of my friends that said, we want to change how our town looks like because we are present and we have to do it from within, because if we do it from within, the leadership will reflect that. You don't get a Claire or an I running for office just by happenstance. You get it because there's a conversation there. You get it because there's someone supporting you. There is a gap in what you think should reflect the future of Connecticut. So this is why we're here, and this is why now Newtown and my Democratic Town Committee and my newly elected officials are taking a different turn of how they're going to represent the people, which is very, very proud.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk a little bit more about what is the importance of us as women supporting change, because I think sometimes what happens is we're tired, we're busy, we're taking care of kids, we're taking care of our parents, we're taking care of the world because we're born this way. And how important it is for us as women to come out and support one another, not because you look like me or sound like me or we grew up together, because you're the right person for the job. And Claire, you mentioned that, you're the most qualified person to take on this task. And that's why we should be looking at someone. But to support your argument, it is important that our young ones see people like us, can identify, and the pictures look like we look. So we'll be right back. Stay with Lily Sin Barreras. We'll continue to talk to Claire and Eva about making change. We'll be right back.
Lucy has always been great at sharing. She shares her sweets, her headphones. When she was little, she even shared her chicken pox. Lucy also likes sharing things on the internet. One day, she uploaded a selfie with Oscar and she got a message from a boy. Then she got another asking her to send a picture of herself at bedtime. Lucy thought this was great. The boy loved her panda onesie. She said pandas were her favourite thing. He bet that Lucy even had pandas on her pants. He wondered if they went to the same school and if she wanted to meet. He said she should bring her cool panda pants. But the next day, after school, she couldn't see any boys waiting. There was just a man.
Hello, love.
Sometimes children share things they shouldn't online, and the effects can be devastating. Help keep your child safe. Be share aware.
What gives him the right to expect that? I'd really be looking forward to a night out with the girls.
As soon as I saw her, I knew she was my type. She was flaunting herself like you wouldn't believe. Definitely asking for it.
I'd felt great going out in that dress. I saw him, fancied him straight away. He bought me a drink and we started flirting. I thought he was lush. We got close on the dance floor and had a few more drinks.
She said yes to a drink easily enough. She was all over me. She wasn't holding back on those shots.
Then he asked if he could walk me home. I was well chuffed, you know.
She let me walk her home. Back for coffee. You know.
I was really looking forward to spending time with him alone, just the two of us.
I thought she might like it if I took control.
A kiss and a cuddle, yeah, but that was all I'd wanted. I'd never wanted it to go that far. And I told him, but he just wouldn't back off.
She shouldn't have kissed me like that if she hadn't wanted it to go any further.
Why did he have to push it that far?
If she hadn't wanted it, she should have said so sooner. You can't get away with leading a guy on like that. I think you would expect sex at the end of a night like that, wouldn't you?
Rape, sexual assault. Let's stop blaming the victim. Visit stopblame.org.
Stand up and start a movement. Stand up for a cure, a chance, a change. Stand up to know and say yes.
Gonna rise up, find my direction magnetically. Gonna rise up, throw down my ace in the hole.
This is where the end of cancer begins. Stand up with all of us. Stand up. Stand up to cancer.
Raise your hand if you've ever been bullied. Come on. We've all been called a name. It sucks, doesn't it? We're After Romeo, and we're proud to support Defeat the Label in empowering youth to take a stand against bullying in their schools and communities.
Everyone at some point in their lives has been bullied, whether it be through joking around with friends or intentionally trying to harm someone.
In high school, I was the quarterback of the team and in choir, so you can only imagine what I was hearing from my teammates, but you gotta go for it.
We need a safe environment, one that empowers all of us to stand up for what is right and enables us to succeed.
Did you know 160,000 students miss school each day because they're bullied? That's enough to fill the Staples Center 8 times.
So After Romeo is here with Defeat the Label to encourage all of our Romeos and Juliets to take a stand against bullying.
We are honored to join forces with Defeat the Label to spread the word.
We need your help, so join us in taking a stand against bullying, and together we can all be bully-proof.
For more information, visit defeatthelabel.com
or AfterRomeoWorld.com.
Regresamos como siempre. Hoy nos fuimos en inglés, although Eva habla español. And Claire, you've already been exposed to the Latino world.
I have.
And Identidad Latina and other places. But we don't have enough time with either you, Claire, or you, Eva. So I'm going to invite you to come back and have your hour. But today I could not lose the opportunity of having two women, two different generations, two different areas of politics. One with tons of experience, one with a kind of different experience with grassroots and coming from different worlds. You live in Newtown, you grew up in Waterbury, you've been in office for a long time. So I'm so excited to continue to have these conversations. You said something during the break that I thought was very important. And Ann Stanback, who's a friend of mine forever, my mentor, you know, who's been an activist forever. Ann has the kindest way of saying exactly what you said, Claire. We women need to bring the younger generation, but be clear that I am doing this. Look at me, because I cannot tell you to be brave and do it when I'm hiding in the shadows.
True.
And that's my paraphrasing of what you said.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for you who are at home and thinking, could I be a Claire? Could I go to law school? Could I sit in that big office? Could I do that? Yes. The answer
Claire
is yes.
KC.
Claro que sí, muy bien.
Claro que sí.
Eva is a young woman who has a lot to offer in such a short time. I mean, I've spoken to you and it's like wisdom. I'm like, okay, I could be her mother, but there we go. Let's talk to her a long time. I always ask my guests first, will you come back on
course.
camera? Because then I can,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
come back.
Absolutely.
But there's 3 questions that are very important to me. Okay? Do you believe in God?
I do.
Do you believe in God?
I believe in a superior being.
Thank
If
you.
that's, I'm
Yeah.
very spiritual.
It is important for you at home to understand that everybody has their beliefs, and you need to understand that yours are okay. And you use the universe as you want. These are the members of the universe. This is your choice. Voting, exercising your voice. Look what happened to us because we chose not to. Because we thought somebody else was going to go out to vote. Because we thought our cousins had it. Because we thought the white suit was definitely going to win. Because it made sense. Everything else was crazy, right? Well, now we got crazy. Second question is, if you had the magic wand, what would change? You can only change one thing.
Other than the November 2016 election, the popular vote would have prevailed?
Okay, that's everybody's wish. There'd be so many eyes for that one.
You can't take my wish.
I'm holding mine right there.
I mean, that's a little bit too obvious. I mean,
we're all holding ours for that one. I think we can unite forces. I'll give you one
so
more.
okay, we have 3 wishes on it. Oh, Magic Genie. Okay, so
One.
the 3 wishes, can we reverse it, please?
Just one. She's a lawyer. She's gonna try. One.
One wish. It's almost too broad a question.
I know.
It's almost too broad a question. I would say that if I had one wish, I would wish for even access to justice for everybody. The vulnerable, the wealthy, and everybody in between.
Be a member of the universe, right?
Well, if you are poor, you don't have a lawyer. You don't have access to the courthouse. You don't have access often to the police station. Not adequate access. You don't get justice. And for someone whose engine is driven by justice, that's a problem. I mean, neighborhood legal aid is fine and dandy for what they can do, but they're overwhelmed with the need.
Yeah, and their budget continues to be cut.
And people need to have access to an advocate, to somebody who will fight for them. Because I don't care who you are, no one fights as well for themselves as having somebody fight for them. And I will give you an example. In the office, I was a lawyer's lawyer. So if somebody was grieved, if somebody brought a grievance saying you don't, and a grievance is a very serious thing for a lawyer. It says you shouldn't be able to practice law practically. I was a person assigned to defend them. Now I'm defending very experienced lawyers, but they needed me to defend them because your emotion gets in the way and the arguments get in the way and you're like, I didn't do it, and you need somebody there to say, I will fight for you. Don't worry, I've got your back, I'm going to fight for you. And that's why I want to be AG. I want to fight for you. I want to fight for people who don't have their own lawyers.
In that fight, I want to hear your wish because I think it's so important to have both. You need to have the community, you have to have the experience, you need to have the Attorney General, you need to have that collaboration. So your magic one wish.
I want to, can I sacrifice my wish and not wish? Is that allowed here?
Tell me what you're going to do. And before I say yes, tell me what you're going to do, sister.
Well, as an organizer, I feel that there is no wish that is unattainable. When you are surrounded with activists and people who have aligning dreams, aligning wishes, then it doesn't matter how many wishes you'll have because you'll break those barriers, be it apartheid in South Africa or desegregation here in the United States, which we're still fighting and we're still representing. Eventually, we will have a society that is fair and more just because they're people who care. You know, because we have Claire, because we have me, because we have so many candidates that truly do believe in what they're doing and what they represent. So I don't need the wish. We're doing it already.
We're going to let her get away with that because I liked it. Just because I liked it. No, I love it. I love it. My last question to you, and it's more like an invitation. Please tell our community why they should vote for you. Look at that camera and tell us why. I've heard this before. You would not be here if I thought it would be terrifying to the community and not good for the community. I am an independent person. I say who I vote for. I'm not connected to anybody politically, but I know where I'm going to place my vote. So I invite you all to think and listen and do your research. But Claire?
I have the experience, but that's not the reason to vote for me. The reason to vote for me is because I've got the fire in the belly and I share your values. I am the only candidate for statewide office who is a union member, and I come from a proud family worth of union members. My brothers are Waterbury firefighters. My sister's a special ed teacher. I will always fight for the hardworking people of our state. I also have the political experience. I have served for 9 years in addition to working full-time and raising a son and being married.
Women.
I also have served for 9 years in elected office in West Hartford. 5 years on the Board of Ed, 2 as its chair, 4 years on town council. But last term ended in 2015. I didn't think I would run again. And then the election in November 2016 happened, and I boarded a bus for Washington, D.C., and I joined hundreds of thousands of women and men, and we were all worried about what was happening with our country and how we could fight back. And when the opportunity came to run for Attorney General, I realized that was the answer to my question. How can I step forward? How can I defend the people of Connecticut? How can I fight back? And I can't do it without you. I can't do it without the support of the people, but if I get that support, I will be fighting for you.
Fight, 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 fight.
Yes.
Fight with heart, which is a
Yes.
different type of fighting. Eva, I think I want to make it clear that I think it's important that we think about your uniqueness. We think about what you bring to our community. We think of your youth as an opportunity, because I know that I was in my earlier days, people would say, but you're so young. I'm like, but I have the energy and I'm going to eat it up. Give me a chance, and I did. I did get lots of chances by women like Ann Stamback and Laura Lockwoods and, Frances Sanchez and, many others who said, I see you, I hear you. So I invite everybody who's at home to think about everybody has an opportunity to make change, and sometimes we look at the younger version and think there's not enough wisdom. Be careful, I had coffee with her, there's plenty. So
Thank you, Lily. Mi gente, everyone sintonizado, everyone there watching us today, I want you to remember that you are powerful. I want you to remember, just like any other candidate that's running for office, be it statewide or state legislature, executive or legislative branch, we are capable of change. I'm an organizer that day in and day out, I'm in your home having those conversations and trying to understand what went wrong here in Connecticut. Why are we struggling? We shouldn't be anymore. And we are going to change that because we are united, because we are determined, and because we want to move forward. I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for your support as an organizer, as someone that's part of a social movement, part of dynamic change, and una persona latina aquí trying to make history. So, cuento contigo, y para mi gente que fala portugués, eu também estou falando com vocês. So, obrigada, and thank you. Gracias.
this is exciting. Usted que está en casita, piense muy bien el poder que tiene el voto, the power of your vote. It is so powerful when you say yes to you, your family, and your rights. Not showing up to vote, believe me, is basically saying, I don't care. That is my belief. That's where I stand. I remember going to vote with my father, and we couldn't get into the little booth. And in those days, you know, they had to ask other people because the pamphlet was in English, and, you know, finding one that it was in Spanish. But he always voted. My mom always voted, and my grandmother, don't get me started, because politics in Puerto Rico are very different. They come with a parade. So very, very different. So I am so grateful that you both decided to come here and share time with me. I hope that very soon, it's on Tuesdays, you would come back and we will have a lengthy conversation. You each get your hour with me that goes by, as you can see, very quickly. And let us know what here on Lili Sin Barreras we need to know. How can we empower people by sharing information?
Absolutely.
People have the heart. Once they have the information, we become even more powerful. We're going to stand behind anybody who stands up for our community. And don't forget that Puerto Rico is still hurting. So we need you to stand up for us. We need you to support us. We need you to advocate for us. We need you, as you have, Eva, to show up. We know you wanted to desperately come to the kitchen. She's like, I want to be in the kitchen. She's like, I want to be in the kitchen and no cameras. I was like, okay.
And it didn't happen.
But it's going to happen because, unfortunately, we hear that we're going to have new brothers and sisters coming in. And so that's going to be our welcoming, as always, into the city. Can pick up as quickly as they can. God bless you in my belief.
Thank you.
Keep going. Don't stop. Let me know I can help you. Eva, you know.
Thank you.
We adore you, and we wish you the best, and we'll continue to show up. I will see you next week. And on YouTube, as Oprah loves to say. Ciao, mi gente.